The final day of the Washington High School basketball season is here, and we are here to break it down. I'm Andy Buhler with SBLive. TJ Cotterill here with me. He's been manning the girls' court here at the Tacoma Dome for the 3A, 4A Hardwood Classic. I have been over on the boys' court. The stage is set, TJ. We've got finals matchups all set for Saturday, running all through the evening, and we've got one more day here.
Yeah, the table's been set on the boys' side. In 4A, you have Mount Si versus Curtis. In 3A, you've got Rainier Beach and Auburn. Talk to us first about the 3A field. Anderson's been on that side all week long. Rainier Beach versus Auburn. How have both these teams gotten here so far, and what set the both of them apart?
Sure. No, Auburn, the story of the tournament of this early week was 1 versus 2 meeting in the quarterfinals. Auburn loses their regional game to Mount Spokane. Obviously sets the table for, hey, Mount Spokane on the other side of that bracket is legit, is looking like a contender. Auburn and Garfield see each other in the quarterfinals on Thursday. It was the game of the year to date, going into OT, and Auburn escaping a win with a 64-60 win. And so they cleared a massive hurdle early. And today, they take care of business in kind of a low-scoring grinder game against a Seattle Prep team that they hadn't seen so far. And that's kind of an exciting part about this tournament. You have these teams seeing each other for the third, for the fourth time. And now Auburn gets a team that they also haven't seen in Rainier Beach, which beat a very good Mount Spokane team today. Just overwhelmed them defensively, frustrated them. Their guards, I think Rainier Beach, their guard play really stood out, particularly with the way they push tempo. Head coach Mike Bethea said they wanted to turn it into a track meet. Now the question is, Auburn likes track meets. So how is this finals game matchup-wise going to fare? I think these teams are really interesting in the way they match up with one another. I think they're pretty similar. But Rainier Beach, as Coach Bethea said today, TJ, he's like, all my 5 stars are football players. There's no DeJounte Murray. There's no, Marjan Beauchamp, but this is a team that's cohesive, plays really well together, and is playing its best basketball of the year.
So far to you, though, who would you say is your favorite for the tournament MVP? Who have been some of the stand-up performances in the 3A side? Let's start there.
Sure. I think the beauty about that question is it's wide open. To me, a lot is going to ride on who plays the best tomorrow. Any standouts, when the lights are shining the brightest, and they've been shining pretty bright all week, I'll say that. But we've seen a lot of low-scoring games. I think you have to look at Trey Blassingame and Malik Arrington at Auburn, 2 guards that have, been at the core of that team for, going back to when they were just sophomores 2 years ago and got bounced in the first round in the 4A tournament here on this floor we're sitting on, and they haven't forgotten about it. So Blassingame, I think, is a key just with what he brings defensively. You could say the same thing about Arrington, who was kind of their stabilizing force today in a very low-scoring game. He was kind of their rent-a-bucket late, and those are guys that are typically comfortable throwing themselves at bigs, and so I look at them. I look at somebody who had a really nice game today for Rainier Beach was Damar Johnson. He's a transfer from Bothell. I think he averaged around 28 points a game as a sophomore, and comes over to Beach this year and has fit into a role where he's not the only scorer. They've got a litany of guys who can do that. And so he had the best game today with 17 points in a game high, but his real impact came on the defensive end where he had 8 steals, 1 away, TJ, from the tournament record set by Jason Terry in 1994.
Let's put the money where the mouth is now. 3A tournament state champion. What's your prediction? Who's going to win it all? Is Auburn going to be able to run through the Metro League to win a first state title? I think the first non-Metro titles in more than 10 years. Lakes was the last one to win it all.
When Auburn classed down from 4A to 3A 2 years ago, I think there was an understanding 2 years ago when they lost here on this court that this was not the last we were going to see of this group. A group that, head coach Ryan Hansen's son Caden, this is the group that they've been so close with and tight-knit, all the way coming up through grade school. I think destiny's going to arrive tomorrow for these Trojans. They took a loss in December to Garfield and really felt like, they got out physical in that game, but they also, they let a lead slip in the fourth quarter in their home gym. And so they cleared the Garfield hurdle. I don't think they're gonna trip up with one final hurdle here on Saturday. I think Auburn takes it home, and the preseason number 1 goes wire to wire.
Well, let's talk about the 4A side. We've got Mount Si versus Curtis. You've got two storied coaches, and Jason Griffith from Mount Si and Tim Kelly at Curtis, meeting for tomorrow's 4A state championship. How did they get here? What's been their story this season?
Sure, yeah. I mean, Mount Si's back for the third straight year in this game. And so they're very comfortable playing on this stage. You have two players who contributed significant minutes 2 years ago in Bennett O'Connor, who has, for my money, been the most efficient and probably the best point guard in the state this year. And then Quinn Patterson, who as a sophomore came off the bench and hit some really big shots. UC San Diego commit. Around them, you've got the deepest pool of pieces that any team in the state, regardless of classification, has. You have a center in Miles Heide, who I think the ceiling is just going to keep elevating with him. And you have a team that lost its leading scorer to a season-ending injury in Trevor Hennig, sophomore guard, who 17 points a game, goes down the week of Gonzaga Prep, that regional round game, and they really haven't skipped a beat. This team's rallied to be together and to stay as a unit. I think that you got to look to the seniors when it comes to that. And I completely forgot your question.
Well, let's talk about Curtis then. How did they get here? And now you get to face obviously a really number one ranked team Mount Si, but tons of young talent team, tons of shooters like you got to see today. How did Curtis get here?
Well, you of all people know how tough it is to get through that West Central bi-district 3-4 tournament. And Curtis, they won convincing. Curtis won convincingly over Tacoma in the final. They cleared a very good Union team then, and tonight they won even more convincingly against that Union team. The thing that stands out about Curtis, not a ton of size, and so that's going to be, I think, a matchup issue with Mount Si, but it's mitigated by the fact that every player in any given moment at Curtis can score the ball. I mean, they've had players, of course we talk about the backcourt of Zoom Diallo and Tice Paulson. How can you not? But you have Cinque Maxwell. You have guys that are stepping up, like we saw tonight.
Devin
Witten with a deep, deep three and a foul late in that game to pull ahead of Union when Union couldn't buy a bucket but was buying a lot of stops. And so with Curtis, it's all about a hot start. So if we're sitting here at the end of the first quarter and Mount Si's got even a little bit of an advantage, I think that's going to be a real telltale sign, because Curtis likes to jump on you quick and make it really hard to climb back.
There's been some really big individual performances in the 4A side too. I think of Jaden Stevens with Gonzaga Prep and what he's done. Yeah. But I mean, if anyone's going to win the tournament MVP, it's obviously going to come from Curtis Mount Si. Who do you think is your prediction to be the tournament MVP from 4A?
It's a really good question. And I think, the beauty with Mount Si is that it just comes from so many different places. I'm going to say this now, TJ. I think if Mount Si wins, I think Bennett O'Connor should probably win tournament MVP.
Okay.
He led him in scoring tonight. He's been relatively mistake-free. He actually didn't have a great first half, and Jason Griffith said he credited Bennett for really not letting that tear him down at halftime. He came out and really controlled the game in the second. He's getting to his spots. Very gifted passer. That being said, Curtis has got a pretty gifted passer, a few of them, but one in particular in Zoom Diallo, who only had 4 points tonight, TJ, but 5 assists that just every one of them seemed to matter. And so, I think if Zoom has a good game tomorrow, it's going to be really hard. And Curtis wins, it's going to be hard to not name him tournament MVP.
It'd be full circle for Bennett, who was starting as a freshman. Yeah. There's some really good teams for them as well, with Jade Mullins and that crew, and was just the epitome of the traditional point guard for those groups as well. Well, let's get down to it then. Your prediction for Curtis Mount Si, who's going to lead with the gold ball in 4A?
Like I said in 3A, I have a very hard time seeing as great of a coach, both defensively and offensively, Tim Kelly is, especially on this stage. I think destiny won't be denied with these Wildcats, a team that took their lumps last year in the COVID spring, was not very good, did not win their league, and returned most of that group, and really had to find its way over the summer, over the fall, and see younger guys, these sophomores like Blake Forrest, who's just emerged as a player. 2 years from now, we're going to be talking about Blake Forrest a lot. 5'11" point guard who can really bring it on both ends, and he'll have a tough defensive assignment. I'm not sure. I'm assuming they'll put him on Zoom, but I don't know. He could go a bunch of different ways. But Mount Si is my pick. I think they're just too complete in all facets of the game. And again, I think, unless Curtis starts really hot and just builds a lead that Mount Si can't climb back from, I think it's destiny won't be denied.
Well, there you go. He says Auburn in 3A. He says Mount Si in 4A. Stay tuned for all of Scorebook Live's coverage. We'll have all the highlights, the top performers, and all the action from Toronto State Championships. Stay tuned.